Hello and welcome.
Okay, welcome back to the show. We have Graeme Jonez with us today on this beautiful sunny afternoon. Welcome to the show, Graeme.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And you just released a record recently. Maybe tell us, let's start off with that.
Absolutely. Thank you. I released my, for all intents and purposes, my debut album, which is called Creatures and Criminals. Recorded it last year. Derek Downham was my producer. I actually got a couple of Indigenous arts grants to record these albums, specific to the creation part of it. So shout out to Ontario Arts Council and the Toronto Arts Council for that. And it afforded me the ability to hire a producer, do the full deal. Got a studio space, an engineer as well, which is actually just down the street here, a place called the Nelson Room.
Oh, the Nelson Room.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful place. I haven't been there, but I saw the photos.
Yeah, very beautiful place. And just the vibe, it's intimate. It's not one of these huge studios. It's got a really great energy to it. And, being in the studio every day just was, those are highlight days for somebody like myself who doesn't get those opportunities a lot.
Right. So you've been working on this record then for the past, I guess, couple years, as you mentioned. Was this one of those COVID pandemic projects that you started because of the boredom of being in lockdown and all that kind of stuff?
Sorta, but if that was the case, it wasn't really intentional. I think we all had a little bit more free time while we were not able to do a lot of things at that point. And I got thinking to myself, I don't know if it was a resolution one year or something, but I said, maybe this is the time that I take some of these songs that I've actually been holding on to for some of them for many years and put them into a cohesive package, pick the right songs that will make a proper fit as a whole album and get to work and do it. So, and I felt like I was holding on to these two and it was kind of preventing me from having the excuse to really start fresh with whole new compositions. So, so that's kind of the way it happened. And some of these, like I said, some of these songs I've had for quite a while. So it was time to take the demos that I had done over the last few years and present them to a real producer.
Right. And the producer, Derek Downham. And how did you guys connect?
So Derek is actually high school friends with one of my best pals.
Oh, really? Okay, great.
A friend named Ben Quinn, and they've known each other for years. On my 40th birthday, Derek actually played. Ben and my partner at the time hired him to play some of my songs, some of my band songs, just a kind of fun thing at a bar up here called the Bar with No Name.
Okay, that's right. We've been there. I don't think it's open any longer, but it's a nice place.
It's been a few years. I became really good friends with the owner there. He's a motorcyclist like myself. So,
awesome. Okay, great.
Yeah, so I got to know Derek enough, and hearing more of his work and his breadth of experience, really, to me, it presented the opportunity. I said, here's the guy right here. I don't want to go around, spending too much time trying to figure out who it might be, where they might be, that would be a good fit as a producer. I knew the kind of work that he could do. And we sat down and I presented him some of the songs, and he was willing to take on the project.
Right. And Derek is an amazing musician, producer, multi-instrumentalist. And how much, I guess, of his input was into the creation of the record or the arrangements of the songs themselves? Because I know he plays a lot of different instruments, and I listened to your record a few times now, and there's all this great instrumentation. So is he doing a lot of that, or is he forcing you to do that, or what's your process?
Yeah, well, so my demos, I felt like were pretty complete, not complete, but like I spent the time to put them together to the level where I thought these aren't going to be the recordings, but this is how I would like these songs to sound. I presented them to Derek, and he started taking things, just tweaking things. For the most part, the arrangements, the compositions, everything like that were true to the originals, except there are some things that Derek did that I would have never thought to do in songs, just like little parts where, extend that by 2 bars, or, at the end of this song, let's let's repeat, let's refrain on something. And then I'd bring him an idea to say, at the end of the song, I want it to kind of like ring out, but then I want this sort of melodic little picking pattern kind of thing going on.
Right.
I'd present it to him, and all of a sudden, it's like, there it is, man.
And there it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
great.
Things like that were really like, to be able to work with him. I think the biggest thing was really pushing me to get the best takes, and the vocal process is one that he really pushed me on, and we would spend a lot of time on those. And that's something for me as a quote unquote singer-songwriter. I love being a songwriter. I love making music. I love making music in the studio. The singing part of it has never been the thing that I'm most comfortable with. Sure, a lot of people think that, but to have somebody there to say, I know you got this, come in this way, do it again, do it again, do it again. And the end result, I think, it's, I do my best to keep that side of things up to par with the production that he did overall. But, he was the one who was responsible for coming up with the guest artists that we brought in.
Right.
So yeah, his connections and then his musicality, there are days here he would just lay down a drum part, he'd throw that to the side, run and pick up a guitar, go lay down the guitar, go grab the keyboard, lay down something there, and I'm just sitting there watching it all happen. So it was fascinating. I played all the beds, just the acoustic beds, and some percussion stuff and some tambourine, and play the harmonica. So pretty much everything else is Derek or the guest artist.
Oh, the guest artist, right? And I think it's important for every artist to work with a great producer. Providing, of course, you can afford their rates. But there's a lot of producers out there that are very affordable, I would say. Because we were talking about this before we started rolling, was artists sometimes have a problem being objective with their own art, whether it's music or even visual art. I've even seen writers not really be objective with their work, and that's why they have an editor that edits the manuscript. Was there any things that you and Derek butted heads on in terms of creative direction, or you had the same sort of vision moving forward?
I think a lot of it was that he had ideas to run with things, and I made the effort to not get in the way with that kind of thing. And as much as that's tough, or, I can think of specific things where like, I thought that, the drum part in this song would go like this.
Right.
But this is the producer, and this is why I hired somebody to do this.
Exactly.
So,
that's right.
To be able to let those things go, I think it is something that a lot of artists for sure have a hard time doing. And, you can say as much as you want, well, I make my art the way I make it. If people don't like it, that's fine, because I don't want to compromise my art. But this isn't necessarily a compromise. This is, something that is part of this final process. And so having his involvement in there, definitely, I needed that for sure.
Absolutely. And it's 13 songs. I haven't seen a record with 13 songs in quite a while. Usually it's like 8 to 10 songs. But is there any special reason to 13? I know some people think that's an unlucky number. I'm not. I'm not one of them. Was that your vision, to have all these songs on the record? And which was the most difficult song to record?
So originally Derek had said, 10 songs is probably good, and I said, okay, but what about like 14? And I said, okay, well, I had, from the first collection of songs I gave him, I think we picked maybe 11, and we said maybe one of them won't make it.
Right.
And then I said, oh, by the way, I have like just this other handful of songs. What do you think about these? And I think we picked 2 of those as well. We originally had 14. One of them just didn't make it after partway through the recording process. And I think for me, it's just, I had a lot of songs. I felt like they were all strong enough. Derek seemed to support that fact and go a little bit above and beyond to add a few extra songs in there. And, I don't know. I just think I love the idea of, the complete albums. And when I looked at the length, I think it was 40, we end up at about 45 minutes on the album. So it's not they're all, not all 5-minute songs.
That's right.
There's some a couple of real quick ones in there. So yeah, I just feel like giving more to the audience, anyways, is worth doing. Especially if the quality is good enough. I didn't want to put songs on there that I didn't think were any good. So
sure,
I kind of fought to go with that number. I have no problems with the number 13 at all. And
okay, yeah.
Those I find those superstitions aren't my deal. So,
that's right. Yeah. That's right. They're not based in reality that we know of.
Exactly. And then the hardest song to record. That's a tough one. None of them were really, really tough. I think there were some songs where we kept going at them, and they would start, say we started in March on a song, and by October there's still things to be adding. So I think there were just, I was limited, full-time day job to try to find time. I would have loved to have said, let's take 2 weeks off and do the whole thing, but I couldn't do that, and we were able to work around it. Derek has his own studio at his place as well, so we, did evenings there when we could, and then full days at Tim's studio. And we just made it work. I think, there wasn't any song I can think of off the top of my head that was really stood out as difficult.
Right. And your background is Ojibwe. Let people know what nation you're from.
Yeah. So I'm a member of the Shegwenda First Nation on Manitoulin Island. My mom grew up just off of Birch Island, so just northeast of Sudbury.
Okay.
Yeah, and we spend a lot of time up there as much as we can.
Right.
And my grandfather was from Wikwemikong.
My mom's from Wikwemikong.
Nice. Yeah. So, that's. I've been in Toronto for 24 years now. Okay. Came here. I grew up in St. Thomas, which is outside of London, Ontario, the railway capital of Canada, as it's called. Yeah. And been in Toronto for 24 years now or something.
Right.
Came here for school and it sucked me in, and I've never been able to get out.
Did you come here to school for music, or was music kind of always on the back burner, or something you would do when you had the opportunity? Did you have other sort of career aspirations as well?
Yes. Well, I spent a year at Sheridan College doing fine art, and then got into graphic design at Seneca College, did 2 years there. Got out of there sort of as a web designer, had my own little business, very little business. And then, that kind of became difficult to keep up. So I ended up getting, random jobs here and there. Music was always an important part of things, but it definitely was a hobby for a long time. I started playing in high school and started writing, doing some stuff. And I think the more I was doing these mundane day jobs, the more the writing and the music started to really become more important, because I was really unfulfilled in what I was doing during the day. I remember I was a delivery driver for a while, and I would have
delivering in Toronto.
Yeah,
well, that's gotta suck. Oh wow,
yeah. And I would have my little pen and a piece of paper in my pocket all the time, and I'd be driving around, and I'd be like, oh, I got an idea for a lyric, and just sort of scribbling it down while I'm driving. And I feel like that was a really important time for me, where the writing was really coming to me at that point, and it really helped to kind of craft the way what my voice is as a musician, I think.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And I released my first little indie album in 2003, and a couple dozen people like it.
Right.
And then a few years later, got a little more serious. I got I got second place in this Indigenous talent search. The company's called Bear Tracks.
Bear Tracks. I recall that. That's right.
Yeah. So this is years ago.
Okay.
And I earned some recording time at a studio, Sunshine Studios in Winnipeg.
Oh, right. Okay.
Shane Ward, the engineer I worked with, and I got to record 3 songs in a couple days.
Okay.
Just got some studio time, and I got a lot of help for me to get a flight out there and back, and get hotels and stuff.
Right.
Wasn't a time in my career when I was sitting on piles of money.
Right.
Not that I am still at this point, but
that's right.
But yeah, it was it was my first sort of thing that was like, okay, this is kind of more serious now. And I started to really latch onto that a little bit. Recorded another album, was fully self-produced. I'm a multi-instrumentalist. I'm not great at any of them, but I can play a lot of things.
What's your first or primary instrument?
Just acoustic guitar.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. That's, anything above that, I'm playing above my level a little bit. I was a lead guitarist in a band that a few of us had here in Toronto for a couple of years called the Davy Parker Radio Sound. Shout out to the guys. I was lead guitarist and I had a cool guitar, this hollow body.
Oh wow! What kind of guitar was it?
It was an Ibanez. It was kind of like like a knockoff of like the Gretsch.
Oh, nice. Okay. Right.
Like a white hollow body with gold trim.
Nice.
I felt pretty cool playing it, but my skill level was never that great. We had some good times. We got to play like the Horseshoe and Elmo and Lee's Palace and all that. So I get to say that I did all that as a musician in a band. But yeah, acoustic guitar for me is where it's at. I just, to me, I love the songwriting side of things. I also love the recording process, and I think that's why I really enjoyed it on my own. This was fun to do with an engineer and a producer. Right. I feel like with time constraints and everything, and you can't touch their stuff, and you got to trust the process and everything. There are things I feel like, I like to have a little bit more fun in the studio, but in this case, I would push them as much as I could, and they would typically tell me it was a bad idea, and then I'd say, just try it anyways. Right. Sometimes it would work, and I'd win a few of them, and other times I'd say, okay, well, we tried it.
Now, was that just telling you it was a bad idea from their experience, or they were just guessing based on just some random sort of guess?
No, I think it's certainly based on experience, but also, I feel like maybe the time, everything's so like, you don't want to upset each other, and it's like, maybe I should have said this like 2 hours ago, but I really think like this, and then they go, oh well, like we can't do that right now, or it doesn't work, we're up against our end of our day or something like that. So learn a lot about the ways to deliver your opinion about these things, and in the end, I think it goes back to the earlier conversation where it's just a fine line between what is your art and your how important it is to connect to what you think is the best idea.
That's right.
And then trusting the professionals, because like I said, I intentionally wanted to hire people who do this,
and that's a big advantage when you hire the right people, because that takes some load off of your what do you have to do, because now you have an engineer, you have a producer. That's something that you don't have to do, because a lot of bands are at home, and a lot of artists, they're kind of they're engineer and producer all at once, and that's why they kind of have wonky recordings, because they're trying to do all these things at once, and maybe they don't know enough about how audio works as well. So yeah, it's always good to work with professionals for sure. So getting back, I guess, to your Indigenous roots and the new record, and how much of that goes into your writing thematically about what the songs are about, and maybe you can tell us some examples about some of the songs on the record.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think being having that inside you, I think for me, it's very important to bring it out. I think it happens naturally for me a lot, and in that, like, there's an organicness, I think, to my music that I feel like comes from always having a connection to the land, water, animal beings, everything like that. And I think a lot of that seeps into my songs, even when it's not intentional. But then there are times where I specifically make an effort. The lead single, 100 Days Deep, it's about a zombie apocalypse, but really it's a metaphor for colonization and it's early days for Indigenous people being the victims in a zombie invasion, kind of thing. So keep it very, like, it is very metaphoric. It's not direct, but then, I think the last song on the album, Valley People, that one is much more speaking about specific things. Again, they do come back to things like colonization, displacement for us with our family, with my sister and I being mixed blood. You're wrestling with things, and there's talking about capitalism in there, and about land ownership and a lot of stuff that I think the parallels to the realities are in the music a lot. And I would say like probably half the songs have some sort of theme in there, some of them completely not at all. But I'm always kind of like writing from the underdog or for the underdog. I think that comes through a lot in my music. And then, one song that is one of the more fun ones that really turned out well is a song called Trickster, Wolfman, and the Motorcycle. So this song was a complete rewrite, probably like a week before we recorded it.
Okay. Was it an older song then? Or?
Yeah,
okay.
like it was from several years ago, and I had a demo of it, and it was a song. It's really funny, but it's maybe to me about CB radio, like truckers and CB radio talk.
Yeah, okay,
so
right.
like we had a CB in my stepdad's van when I was a kid, and loved playing with the thing, and you'd hear all the breaker and all this chatter. And then somewhere in my travels in the States, I like, I'm a motorcyclist. I love traveling and touring around. So some flea market in the U.S. in Pennsylvania or something, I found this book of CB talk and learned, got some of the lingo out of it. Wrote this song, decided that's fine, but it's not right. So rewrote it as this whole story about Trickster trying to convince Wolfman, who just bought a motorcycle, that he can jump this gorge. And I get to bring the Trickster in, to bring Nana Bush into the story is kind of fun. A completely fictional version of it. This isn't one of our creation stories about a motorcycling Wolfman. But so that's something that I think it really got to bring in some of that element and bring some fun on the Indigenous side. And it's not always the heavy and hard themes.
That's right.
Got to bring a little fun twist into it.
Because sometimes it's analogies and metaphors that help move the song forward for the listener, because sometimes the listener doesn't want to be inundated with these heavy sort of topics. So if you could deliver it in a sort of easy to digest pill, I guess that's sometimes a better way to get the message across, which I've found. So do you find yourself inserting yourself like as a character into your songs? You were just talking about the motorcycle and how you like to bike. What kind of motorcycle do you have, just out of curiosity?
So I got a Yamaha 900 touring bike right now. Okay. I've had a few over the years. I also have a race bike. I do some racing well on the side. Wow. Yeah. So I've got like a really old, like a 60s vintage Honda 350 that my dad and I race with. And, so I do enjoy my touring. Sorry, what was your question before that? Do I inject? Yeah,
that's right. Are you some of the characters in your songs, I guess?
I would say no. No. Okay. I prefer to be the observer and the narrator. I don't think, and this song, this album in a specific sense is a collection. Like it feels like they're all stories. They're like, I'd call it like dark fiction, not all dark, but basically all a string of fictional tales that have these different characters that are in them. Right. It doesn't mean that I don't write from that perspective and that I won't on the next album.
Right.
But like, there's no love songs on this album or anything like that. There's nothing that's, the messages are from the heart, but then I'm expressing them through these stories. So, a song called The Flood, it's basically about climate change, and it's a subtle way of me, getting that message out there in a unique story.
Right.
And then there's dragging the same dead deer up the same old hill, which is a little residential school story. And again, it's easier to consume it, I think, because it's not and no disrespect to anybody who's doing that, of course, but with my kind of writing, that's the way I like to do that. So get my message out there and have my personality exist in there, but I'm not a first person or a character in any of those stories, really.
Well, I was listening to your record, and it definitely, you have your own sort of, I don't know how to describe it, signature sound that I haven't really heard. Yes, I recognize that it's in the Americana folk genre, but there's something you're doing. I don't even know what it is. So yeah, good work. And good work to Derek. Yeah, for sure. So what are some of the, I guess, goals or expectations you'd like to have from this release?
Really, my goal from the very start was to get some placement in film and television.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I hear my song once in a low run production, that I'll consider it a huge success. But that is, you know, when that day comes, I will be very happy, and that will be part of what I really wanted out of this
Right.
recording. So, you know, we mentioned this when we spoke recently, but I got myself into the catalog with Nagamo.
Mm-hmm.
So that is seeming to go well. I heard from them that they were able to pitch a couple of my songs on
awesome.
my launch date. No,
that's excellent.
yeah,
Okay.
So, you know, no promises there, but it's a great start, and, you know, I'm going to do what I can to get connected with more syncing companies, and really, you know, I would love that. I think, you know, when I think of these songs, and especially the production that came with them, the idea that I wanted, in which Derek and Tim nailed, and even, you know, the mixing and mastering, everything, had Josh Bowman do half of the mixing on it, and, you know, Tim did the other half, and it all sounds like a phenomenal piece. So, you know, they really captured this kind of like mood, and my cover, I think, depicts it well, the cover of the album, where it's kind of this dark, old-timey, you know, 19th century sort of frontier kind of vibe.
Yeah, that's right. And tell people what the name of the album is called.
It's called Creatures and Criminals, and launched March 2nd, a couple days ago, and it's, you know, I've got the raven right on the cover, and then it's got a sort of like a subtle, like a cityscape behind it. There's actually a residential school building tucked in there.
Right.
You know,
And did you do the graphic design for
I
that?
did.
Okay,
yeah. So I want to be able to do more where I can let people do these things who are, you know, like I said, I'm a designer, but I kind of out of necessity did my own album cover this time.
Right.
I'd love to be able to say to somebody at some point, and I'll be doing this more even with videos, to let somebody else do it. As much as I think like, I can, you know, I'll take time, but I can do a video. No, I'd prefer to have some of my talented network of people do some of these things, get them some exposure, but yeah, in this case, I think I kind of knew in general what I wanted, and I feel like the mood on the cover captures the vibe I wanted on the album.
Okay, great. And do you have any other upcoming events or shows that you're going to do to promote this record, or?
Yeah, I was on CFRU 93.3 this past Thursday.
In Guelph. Right.
Yeah. Did Turtle Island Underground, did a guest takeover. So
awesome.
That was really fun. Got to, you know, it's tough there's only a few minutes of actual on air, but I got to sort of tell people a little bit about myself like I'm doing here. And play some of the songs to that audience. And it's all about getting a few followers here and a few followers there, and some exposure wherever you can. And I'll be on Indigenous Waves on the 13th.
On CIUT.
On CIUT. Great. With Jenny. Yeah.
Awesome.
Jen. So, I got those coming up, and then I'm continuing to just plug away, you know, doing this as an independent artist. Like I said, my previous recordings were so underground.
Right.
And just burned CDs.
Gotcha.
Did the artwork, printed them all out, put them in jewel cases, and sell them out for a few bucks each. This is a different process, and the world has changed since the last time I did a release.
It has. It's right, yeah.
And the learning process was higher than it was bigger than I expected. So I felt like I got behind the ball a little bit with the effort that I could have been putting in a month and a half ago, you know. And you've also got to answer, you know, you submit these grant reports once your music's
that's
done.
Right. That's right.
There's a deadline for this stuff, so you know you also have to get it out. You know, I didn't want to wait too long, so sort of picked a date and the time to get it out. And like every day, it's, you know, put in your work hours at the day job, take some time off, have some dinner. And you just get back to working on your musical career. So it's, you know, I find that it's enjoyable stuff, and you just have to find a way to make it part of the enjoyable process. And, you know, hearing back from people, even friends who actually have taken the time to listen to the full album, and I've had a couple of reviews so far, which is great. And, you know, getting genuine feedback is amazing, and mostly just and people who are just not everybody pursues things to the level of actually getting to the point where they decide that it's, they're going to put in the effort to put it together an album. Or
many artists don't do anything.
Yeah.
And then they have a box of CDs in their closet or in their garage or wherever. That's right.
Yeah. So, I felt like it was, I knew I needed to do it, and it had been, a few years since I had been involved above the surface with music. So to get back going and to hear some of the kudos that it turned out as well as it did, including from yourself. So thank you. Right. It's a huge warm feeling for sure.
So I guess what's the biggest challenge that you yourself as an independent musician has these days? I know, let's say it seems like every couple of years there's a new challenge, there's a new technology. Even now there's there's new legislation regarding the work visas. If you want to go tour in the States, it's going to be 3 or 4 times now the price, which is just crazy. I mean, we don't have any money. Charge that to someone else. So for yourself, what kind of challenges are you having? Or is it mainly just, like you were just saying, just time management?
So, I think the thing I didn't really expect is how many platforms you need to be on and how many like logins you have to have, and it's like, okay, well, you somebody's can you get your lyrics on Spotify? I said, okay, yeah, let me check into that. And it's like, oh, well, to do that you have to actually get this other software, or like log into this whole other platform, do that, connect it to that. You got your distributor, your Spotify for artists, your Apple for artists. It's like there's so many things that you need to do, and if you're independent, you're doing it all yourself, and you have to just keep on all of it. And again, I mean, the time management for sure is huge for those that have the time. Like for me, I'm fortunate that I'm always being productive. I can't sit idle. Right. So it's fine if I'm burning the midnight oil on this stuff. I'm going forward. So it's important to me. Sleep will catch up at some point,
That's right. Right.
That's the way it is for artists, We're all sort of the same way, and it's I'm fortunate to be able to hire some support for getting some of my taking some of that load off, because it is overwhelming, and you do what you can with your budget, and you decide what you can do on your own. Fortunately, I'm in marketing, and I kind of get that side of things with social media, and
right.
I'm able to maximize my experience with those kind of things. But there's some people that don't have any of that. Like if you're just a good songwriter and a good guitarist, there's a lot that you have to do to actually get to this point. So maybe that is part of the reason why not everybody decides that it's in them to put in the effort.
That's right, because essentially you're building a business from scratch, and you're also building your team from scratch, because you'll have various people, whether they be engineers or producers or promotion people or managers or radio trackers. You have all these people that you can have at your disposal. But the other challenge, I guess, is the financial challenge. Now, you said you received a grant through Ontario Arts Council. So definitely there's programs out there for independent artists, and I guess you would recommend that they go and apply for these?
100%, yeah. So Ontario Arts Council and the Toronto Arts Council, this is one of those things where you don't know what's going to come of it, so you apply for all of them.
All of them, that's right.
And then you find out you get one, you're like, oh, that's amazing, right. I did it. And then I was really fortunate to get another letter to say, congratulations. And it's like, wow, okay, so this really gives me the opportunity to really execute this thing in a most professional way. So I recommend it so much. I think, the process isn't overwhelming, but I think even the grant writing process is something that does filter out a lot of people, because they, for some of them, there's a lot of steps to take. There's you got to write a lot of words.
And it kind of weeds out some people, I think.
I really think it does. And I think there's those who just can't get through the process. B, there's those that just don't have the whatever it is to have put together the best package.
Right.
And for me, I'm a bit of an over analyzer, and I was a copywriter and a copy editor and everything. So for me, like, at the end of the grants, they say, oh, did this take you like 1 to 2 hours, 2 to 4 hours, 4+? And I'm like, well, where's the like 20+? Because I would go at it, rewrite it the next, like do a third of it one day, third of it next, third, and go rewrite this part, rewrite this part, right up until deadline day. And you're like, okay, is this like 100% what you want? Okay, click submit. And so I think, whether you, again, hire somebody, because there's a lot of people who do that for you, and they know how to write those properly. I did my best and just tried to be really thorough and professional, and it worked out. So I'm very thankful to both of those organizations for that, and I really do recommend that anybody takes the chance, especially Indigenous artists. Like, these weren't just music grants; they were arts for any art discipline. So whatever it is you do, and you have an opportunity there, being the Indigenous. The collective of Indigenous people is smaller than pitching to these other grants. You can apply for regular music grants and
That's right.
video grants and things like that.
Right.
But you have so much of a better opportunity because there are less people applying for these grants.
It's a smaller pool, right?
Exactly.
That's right, yeah.
So I say go for it.
And it's your peers that are judging you in these Indigenous specific programs. So they're already familiar maybe with what you do, or at least culturally with some of the themes that you're trying to do.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, you think about that as you're doing the application, and I know some people, not specific to the grants that I got, but that are on juries of other grants, and these are legit people who are on these. Maybe you've even been on them.
I can't confirm or deny, but
so they're picking the best of the best.
That's right. And I think it helps even just going through the exercise, because it kind of trains you to articulate and focus what your project's all about. Because some people that go to the studio, they have no idea what their project's about, and then the engineer is like, well, what are we doing today? Especially if they don't have a producer kind of managing that. And then they just kind of waste everyone's time.
Right, yeah. It's true. And, with the grants, the good thing is there's always one in 6 months or a year. There's another one to apply for, or there's the Canada Council, or there's Factor. There's so many grants. And again, that's another thing that's so overwhelming to try to figure out all the opportunities that are out there. But you realize that there are a lot, even if it's from private companies,
That's right.
There are still these bursaries and
That's
grants
right.
and things that are out there. So it's by all means worth giving it a shot. You'll typically get some feedback about what worked and what didn't, and you grow from there. You try it again, and if this is really something that you want to do, it's your career, or your passion, or whatever it might be. Keep putting in the effort, and you'll. I shouldn't say you will, but your chances of continuing to improve, the better you get.
I find persistence, as long as what you're doing, the quality is good, and you are striving to become a better artist and a better musician. If you hang in there in persistence, people will eventually start seeing and hearing what you're doing, and then hopefully if you can keep the quality up, you'll get to the next level. I've been seeing that, especially now that I'm in my 50s, and a lot of people that kind of started 30 years ago with me are now becoming Juno Award winners and being nominated for Grammys and such. So it's always super great and rewarding to see that, for sure. So any award aspirations in your future?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I sort of, as I was putting together the grants and talking to Derek and all this, of what the goals are, I said the biggest accomplishment ever would be on the long list for the Polaris Prize.
Oh yes.
That would, because I think I took the time, and I wanted to craft something that is a full album. It's not 5 good songs with a bunch of other songs on there.
All killer, no filler.
Yeah, that was the goal. Yeah, right. 13 songs. It's a lot of killer.
That's right. It is.
But that would be great. And then the songwriting side of things, I'd love to be acknowledged within the songwriter realm, and whether that's Juno related or folk folk music, any of that stuff, that would be a huge nod to me. And obviously I'd love to receive a nomination in the Indigenous category as well for the Junos. And I see a lot of,
I think we all would, actually.
Yeah, I know, right? I see a lot of what's out there, and there's some amazing, it's great these days to compare yourself to the level of
That's right.
musicianship in the Indigenous community. It's fantastic now, and you get some of those artists that are really, really blowing up, and it's amazing to see, and then others that there's just a lot of inspiration, a lot of cues that you can take from people that are doing it right, and think, okay,
that's right.
They got there. I mean, I might not be there yet. I still consider myself, this is still my debut album for all intents and purposes. So I am still early in that, and this was good though. Like, it feels like I'm getting back into the career aspect of being a musician and an artist. So yeah, I'm ready to see what comes next. The collection of songs that are already forming for the next project is really exciting so far. So,
excellent. Yeah. And any live shows you're going to be doing this summer, in case someone wants to come catch one of your shows live? Or
nothing yet. Okay. Nothing planned, but the more that this takes off, like I mentioned before, I mean, it's tough to say because you want to grow and you want to reach a bigger audience as an artist and everything. I love the studio process. I think that's where my passion for music lies, is writing the song, creating something in the studio, and then having that as the piece of art. Now, recreating it on the stage, there's an exciting element to that, but I want people to hear this as much as people do want to see live performances. So, as I sort of transition into like, okay, I'm back into being a musician again. This isn't like something I'm messing around with here and there. The booking of shows is going to start to happen. So, I just want to pick and choose, and I have to be realistic. I love my day job, and I want to keep that, and it's tough to compromise, of course, in art and in your career like that. But there's a balance there that will be met, and I do have a lot of people, like, I haven't even planned a release party, and
oh really? Yeah, usually that's the first thing everybody does.
I know. Well, part of it was Derek was originally going to be away, and on my first date that I booked, and then so I said, okay, well, I'll plan it for later, and then I think they got rescheduled, and it kept conflicting. So then I said, it's now all of a sudden it's like I don't have enough time to plan something. So I'm working on this, like, more like a celebration of the accomplishment of it in a few weeks. So
good.
Yeah, I'll get some people together and find a place to have some fun. I'll get Derek to back me up and play a few songs for people.
Well, be sure to let us know, and that'll be on maybe tell people where they can look up this information, your website, social media.
Yeah, easiest thing is to look me up on Instagram. It's G Jonez Music, Jones with a Z. My first name is unique spelling, so it's always like, it's a tough thing. I should have come up with maybe some other stage name, but my first name's Graeme, Graeme. I think it's Celtic or
right. Yeah.
British, English, something like that.
That's right.
Anyways, that sticks with me all in my day to day, is the spelling of my name. But that's the best place. You can find my link tree through there, and otherwise just look up Creatures and Criminals pretty much everywhere you want to find music: Spotify, Apple, Bandcamp, SoundCloud, all of those places.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming to the end of the show, and I always ask guests any advice to someone that is in your shoes, or maybe thinking about pursuing music, and they kind of don't know what the next step forward is.
I would say, if you're a musician, I would say know what your sound is, believe in it, sort of craft something that's that you're really confident with, and then I say just apply for those grants. I think that's a biggest thing. Like, this changed the way this is different than anything I've ever done. The scale has been bigger, and now I'm seeing, and that was just for the creation part of things. So now I'm seeing, as I get into the promotion and the release, that there is more that you can do because you've got such a good product to work with. And that came from having the means to hire the right talent to do that, from the mixing to the mastering, as well as the production and the engineering. So I would say that's such a good opportunity, and it's, basically it's free, right? Like, it's a grant. It's not pay it back in a year. This is art grant money. So
that's right.
It's there for people to take advantage of.
And that's awesome. And if people don't, someone else will. And from what I've been reading, and even just hearing from some of the panels, if they don't get enough people applying, then the government won't give that as much funds allocated to that particular program. So encourage people to apply. And maybe if you don't get the grant this time, submit for the next deadline.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Yeah. And you're right. I mean, I've heard that as well. I think there's so much good art out there, and this is, like my case, this allows you to take that art and to do more with it, right? So whether that is just, taking time off, whether it's getting a residency somewhere.
Right.
There's so many ways you can take advantage of these. Mm-hmm. It's not just like, hey, here's money, go spend it. It's, you want 3 months off of like a leave to do something. There are, the means for that type of thing as well. So really a lot of opportunities there to take advantage of. Yeah, that's what they're here for.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming in today, Graeme. It was great talking to you. And once again, an amazing record. Really love it. And again, kudos to Derek. You did a great job, buddy. And please keep in touch. And we'll have you back maybe in a few months to kind of do an update on what you're doing and to see how the record's going and see if you got any placements or any exciting shows coming up. So thank you again for coming on the show. And thank you for watching.